At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
And I am Anthony Sier, and a pleasant welcome to Focus on Liberia. Thank you for joining us here at Focus on Liberia. We have a very important educative discussion today, and I will encourage you to share the broadcast with somebody and let us discuss. Let's get some understanding, let's get some perspective, and about the national budget. The 2026 draft national budget is what everyone is talking about. 1.2 billion. For the first time in the history of our country, we have a projection that our country, our government is going to generate, is going to raise, is going to collect 1.2 billion United States dollars in revenue by the end of 2026. Some people believe there is a significant progress in our effort in raising revenue, trying to find more money to be able to fund, to be able to finance, to be able to get the things that we need, to pay for the things that we need in our country, for roads, electricity, education, healthcare, the running of the government. And, everything that we need in our country, we need money, and we really need money to get those things done. But the reality has been the money that we have been collecting as a country has been very small. And so that is a problem, or that has been a problem and continues to be a problem. Because, look at the needs in the country. If you look at roads alone, don't you think that we need about maybe $3 billion to be committed to construction of roads alone in Liberia? Maybe if we were raising that kind of money just for roads alone, we would be getting somewhere. But the reality is our budget since the war ended, has been around $500 million for the most part. and the war ended. Our first government after the war was 2006 when Ellen Johnson Sirleaf administration started. The first budget of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, we understand, was around 80 or 88 million United States dollars. And then they've been making effort. At some point, the budget reached to $500 million, and they've been hovering just around that time. I mean, just around that amount. And then fast forward coming to president, we have period. I mean, the CDC administration, the budget started going to 600, 700, 800, and now we are talking about $900 million, more so for domestic revenue generation. Money that we are able to raise as a government has been, along those figures. And so now people have been making progress. The LRA said it that they want to hit the $1 billion milestone, and so now finally we are hearing that the next year projection, which is 2026, they are going to raise that more than $1 billion United States dollars in revenue. And so people are saying this is a big deal. This is indeed a big deal. That's why others are saying, if you ask me whether it's a big deal, no, for me, it's not a big deal. But for many, this is a big deal because this is the first time that as a country, we have a projection now. And when we say projection, it's like a wish list. It's something you think you can do. It is not a reality yet. The budget, first of all, is a plan. The budget is a projection that we think we're going to collect this amount of money. It's like you in your house, you start to make your budget for the year. And, you got to look at how much that you are earning as an individual. And if people been giving you something, maybe your big brother can give you something here and there, then you put all your budget together and say, what, the way this year looking, maybe at the end of the year, this is what I'm going to get. And based on that, I'm going to use this amount for this amount for school fee, and so on and so forth. So it's similar. And so now we have our biggest budget projection ever in our nation's history. According to the government, the budget has increased by about 37%. So that's what they are saying. And so we are looking at it now. People saying, well, this is more than likely a big deal. So let's look here. If you look at the 2026 national budget, the total budget is about 37.5% increase. That means the budget has gone up by 37.5%, which is a major increase in the budget. But if you look at it in terms of dollar and cent, it's not a big amount, but that's what it is. So domestically, the total amount that's going to be generated as a result of this 37.5% increase is 1.211 billion United States dollars that we are going to generate according to the projection. All right. And so let's look at this. So this money that is going to be generated, let's see how it's going to be distributed across our three branches of government. And then after that, we'll come to the people. So if you look at the 1.2 billion, the government, according to the allocation, the way it's been distributed, the way they have decided to use it when they generate this money or as they generate this money, they say the executive branch of government, which is the executive mansion, all the ministries and agencies that fall under the executive branch of government. So that executive branch of government will get $167 million. That is what the executive branch of government going to get. Now, for the legislative branch of government, which is the legislature or the legislators, they are going to get 83 million. 83 million. So I don't know. For me, I have been following the budget. For the most part, the legislature Their budget has always been around 55 million. Their budget has always been around 55 million, 50 million, 40 million. And now, because we have a bigger budget now, their budget has gone up to 83 million. It has a significant increase there. Now we come to the judiciary branch of government. That is the one below right there. The judiciary branch of government, excuse me, the judiciary branch of government budget now is going to be 60 million United States dollars for the judiciary branch of government. And let me give you a little history of the judiciary branch of government. The judiciary branch of government, for the most part, their budget has always been almost or a little half of the legislative branch of government budget over the years. All right. So they have been getting around 30, 25, 28 million. Now, because of this, projected bigger budget that we have, their budget has gone to 60 million. So they are now getting double than what they have been getting. The legislative branch of government is also getting like almost double than what they've been getting. The same thing with the executive branch of government. The executive branch of government money has almost double. All right, they are getting 100 million. So that is how the budget now is being allocated and distributed among the three branches of government. Now, let's look at how is the budget also being distributed when you're looking at some key sectors. Let's look at that also. Now, if you look at education, they're going to allot 20.3 million. Health will be 5.5 million. Water and sanitation 4.6. Security about 40 million. Agriculture, something like energy, going to be about 50 million. So these are the projections. These are numbers that we were able to gather from the budget, so to speak. So now let's do something also. All right. So again, remember, we are talking about the fiscal year 2026 national budget. The government is saying that, the national budget channels US 1.2 billion across key sectors. It means that all the money that they're going to generate, they're going to spend all the money, and all the ministries and agencies going to benefit. All right, going to benefit from this, quote unquote, some people will say, huge budget projection. So the government said they're going to raise 1.2 billion, and all the 1.2 billion going to be spent on the entire sector of our country, from health, education, public sector, and all that. That's what they're going to do. Now, another thing is that the government is saying the municipal government sector is allocated 66 million. So we are talking about distribution. What this person will get, what this sector will get, what this, that's what we are doing right now. So the municipal government, these are our cities government, the cities, they are going to get 66.9 million. That's what that has been allocated for municipal government, which is our cities government. Okay. Then public administration sector. The public administration sector now going to receive 145 million. All right. The public administration sector going to receive 165 million. And then also we have transparency and accountability. For transparency and accountability, the government has allocated 34.42 million, which is $34 million, or 34.4 million has been allocated for transparency and accountability. This means that this is money they have set aside for rule of law. You're talking about anti-graft institution that are LSCC, the auditing, the Internal Audit Agency, the FIU. These institutions that are there to fight corruption, they have set aside 34.4 million United States aside so that they can do their work. Now, also, let's come to security and the rule of law. Security and rule of law received 151.8 million. Security and rule of law. So that is, you're talking about your law enforcement agency. We're talking about the police. We're talking about drug enforcement agency, all of the security apparatus. You're talking about all those security sector, the entire security sector now, all right, going to receive 151.8 million. That is why they have allocated. Now we come to the health sector. The health sector is being allocated 101.7 million. So in terms of health, they have set aside 101.7 million United States dollars for the health sector. Let's talk about education, which is the big one, right? Education is prioritized with, meaning they make education as a priority, and according to them, US 1.3, US 123.9 million is going to education. 123.9 million is going to education, according to the government allocation of the draft national budget, which is in the tune of 1.2 billion. Now, the energy and environment receive US 78 million. And they say this money, this 78 million that is set aside for energy and the environment. So energy, they are talking about LEC, so that they're scoring. Then the environment, we're talking about the EPA, to ensure that our environment is safe. They set aside 78.19 million for climate resilient infrastructure and stable electricity supply. So you see that? So they say the 78 million that will be used to provide stable electricity, and I hope the electricity is going to reach to my ground crew. More than likely, all of it will be, for the most part, Montserrado County, as we all know it, right? Maybe there are other counties where they are doing something, but the reality here is that they said they are setting aside 78.19 million to be used for climate resilient infrastructure. Whatever is climate resilient infrastructure, I really want to know. Are they saying that since the erosion is coming to Mine Detour High School and try to snatch it away, are they going to make some investment there to tell the sea, say, look, Mr. Giant, Atlantic Ocean, hold back. We have a school here we have to protect. And the thing can go across, if you look at the boulevard, Labyrinth, there's dating belt now. You look at the boulevard belt in the Cinco era, where you have the Atlantic Ocean continue to encroach on that. Are they going to do something to stop it? But they are saying the $78 million will be used for two things: climate resilient infrastructure. I don't know what that is, but they said that's what they're going to use the money for. And also part of the money going to be used for the provision or the supply of stable electricity in Liberia. I don't know whether they will get a stable one. It has not been stable for the most part. And all of us know this to be true. Now let's talk about agriculture. Agriculture is allocated 13.6 million. 13.66 million. All right. So agriculture gets 13.6 million to boost domestic production and reduce import reliance. So the government is saying they have set aside 13 million to go to agriculture. And according to them, this amount is going to be used to boost domestic production so that we can reduce our reliance on importation. We're importing rice. I'm sure we might be importing pepper from other places. We're importing soap. We're importing everything. They are saying they set aside 13.6 million so that we can invest it in agriculture and increase production to reduce our reliance on importation. That's a good, the idea is good. Nothing wrong with that, because if you can produce more locally, the cost will be low, and then you will save more money, and that will also lead to a reduction in the prices of basic commodities in the country. Let me progress. Infrastructure and basic services received. Infrastructure. Now we're talking about infrastructures. We're talking about roads. We're talking about bridges. We're talking about airports. and you name it. They are saying for infrastructure and basic social services. Basic social services may include what we name buses for transportation. For example, we name those things. Maybe we need a railroad for example. They are saying they have set aside 133.2 million for infrastructure development in Liberia. And the reason they're doing this is said to drive road construction, equipment procurement, and regional connectivity. So they are telling you why they're going to use the money for. They says this money that has been set aside, 133.2 million, this is the money that will be driving the construction of roads, the procurement of equipment for road construction, and also for regional connectivity. They are using big book here. They say regional connectivity means that, okay, we need to be connected to Ivory Coast so that getting to Ivory Coast will be easier. Getting to Guinea will be easier. Getting to Sierra Leone will be easier. They're going to use this money for road construction so that we can be connected to our neighboring countries, so that when we are bringing something from Guinea, bringing something from Sierra Leone and Ivory Coast, we will not have that much difficulty, so that the roads can be pliable, the roads can be easily accessible, so that we can have, huge, a flow of goods and services in and outside of Liberia, so as to encourage good economic activities that will reduce the hardship in the country. Another thing to talk about is industry and commerce is supported with US 16.2 million, backing small businesses and revenue enhancement. So they are saying they set aside 16 million. And the 16 million, they're going to use it to back up small businesses. Now, backing up small businesses, most of these small businesses, what do they need to be able to stay to stay in the competition? They need macro loans. They need loans. At the Ministry of Commerce, the government has always tried to set aside some money so that they can give the money to businesses alone, for these businesses to increase their capacity, to increase production, to increase their goods, and so on and so forth, so that they can be able to keep a constant supply of the things the citizens need to keep the economy afloat. They are saying for commerce and industry, $16 million has been set aside for the purpose of backing up our small businesses. So if I'm a small business owner, I know that there's $16 million in the budget. So when I apply, I hope I will get some money so as to back up my small business, increase production, and so that my business can be able to gain some strength, so that maybe I can hire someone, another person can have a job, and then I can pay the money back to government if the money will be given on the basis of loan. Now, also, let's talk about the debt. This $1.2 billion, I gave you synopsis of the distribution, how they intend to distribute the money. Part of the money going to go to debt. As a country, we owe. In fact, our domestic debt, our debt portfolio, the total money we owe domestically, domestic debt means the government can be taking goods from people. Maybe they're doing road, they take building materials from, or they take steel rods from people that are selling steel rod. Maybe they need stationaries, people that are selling sheets, printers, ink. The government can take this thing on credit, and the government can pay back later. So the government, and some people are supplying government with the things government need for a operation. The minister should have said, well, we need a generator. We don't have the money now, but give it to us on credit. We will pay back. So we have both domestic and non-domestic debt. The total money that they are talking about, so let me read it again, of the total domestic debt accounts for US $1 billion, 1.08 billion. So they are telling you for the debt that we owe businesses in Liberia, we owe $1 billion in debt, representing 40.2%. So of the total debt of $2 billion that we owe as a country, 40% of it is domestic debt. All right. And then for external debt, for the external debt stands at US 1.6 billion, which amounts to 59.9%. So you see that? So we owe 2+ billion in debt. 1 billion, 1.6 in domestic, in external debt, all right, and also 1.8 in domestic debt. You put it together, it's about 2 billion plus total. That's what we owe in domestic debt. So what is the government going to do? The 1.2 billion that we have projected, or that is projected by the government, that the government is going to generate, the government also saying, since we owe 2 billion plus in debt, and we're going to generate 1.2 billion, we're going to pay some of our debts. So how much money is the government, how much money did the government put in this budget to pay debt? The government has allocated 230 million for debt servicing, meaning that the 2 billion that we owe, which is the total of both domestic and external debt, we're going to set aside, or they have set aside 230 million to pay debt. I wish they have set aside 230 million for infrastructural development in Liberia. But what we have for infrastructure is 1.3 billion. 1.3 is 133. Let me get it right. It's 133 million. But for debt, we're giving 230 billion so that we can pay our debt to the people that we owe. So why is the government telling us that this time around, meaning 2026, is going to raise more money than it has done before in the past? Where will the money be coming from? How can a government that has not raised $1 billion at any time in the past 20 plus years say now that they are going to generate about 1.2 billion? What happened? How is that possible? What are they looking at? Well, several things the government looking at. The government is saying, we're going to get some money from the European Union. They gave us a figure. The government is saying, we're going to get some money from the World Bank. They gave us the figure. The government is saying, well, we have a concession here, which is Mentor Steel. Mentor Steel, we have a concession agreement that is before this legislature that will be ratified between now and the year 2026. The agreement says when it is ratified, about 200 million will be given to the Liberian government. Will be given to the Liberian government. And so the government is saying that is a major source that we believe will be helpful in generating the 1.2 billion that we are talking about. European Union will give us some money. IMF will give us some money. African Development Bank will give us some money. Then Mentor Steel is stepping in with 200 million. And then there are other people who will contribute that will give grants. And then on top of that, our own domestic revenue generation will increase. What will be responsible for the increase? What has been the trend? I listened to the finance minister today, or I listened to the government today when they have their regular press briefing at the Ministry of Information, Cultural Affairs, and Tourism. The minister indicated that the revenue generation trajectory, big word there, right? The trend has been going up. That Liberia has been on an upward trajectory. Since the war ended, our first budget was about 88 million. We start going up. We went to 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, and then 600, and then 700, and then 800. And now they are projecting 900, plus what Mentor Steel and other people will give us, will put us at the what? The 1.2 billion. So they are saying we have been on that trajectory. We have been on our trend. Our revenue generation has been increasing. In other words, we've been doing well. We always generate money more than the previous year. So since last year or this year, 2025, we are around, the 800 to 900 million. We believe that by next year, we will be able to generate a little over 900 million, even close to $1 billion. And then when the contribution coming from the IMF, the World Bank, the African Development Bank, and Mentor Steel, we will be able to hit that. That is the government explanation. And that is why the government feels so confident that it will be able to generate that amount of money. Now, let's go to some details. I will place emphasis on one important one. There is something. So how does the government collect money, first of all? The government collects money through taxes, through taxation. When you are working in a country and you earn an income, or when you earn money or you make salary, the government can take income tax from it. That's another way the government makes money. Another one is called corporate tax. If you are a business or a corporation in Liberia, and if you make profit, let's say you make $100 profit, that profit you made, the government of Liberia gets a percentage on it. That's what we call corporate tax. That's another way the government makes money. We talk about concessions agreement. When the government signs or ratify a concession agreement, in the case of Mentor Steel, for an example, when that agreement is ratified, government can get royalty, government can get, signing the contract, they get setting fees upfront. So that's another way the government makes money. Then another way government makes money is sales tax. When you are selling things in the country, government is getting tax on the sale. Then importation. Then we talk about custom. All right. These are the various ways government generate revenue through taxation. Let me not also forget about property tax. Property tax is another way the government have been generating revenue. If you own a property, maybe you pay some fees on it to government. And through rent. In Liberia, this is by law, and you may not have noticed that if you are renting from somebody, and whatever amount you pay as rent, government get 10% of that money as government tax. That's another way government generates money in Liberia. So if you are a business and you're renting from somebody, and maybe your yearly payment is about maybe $5,000 you renting the property, 10% of that 500, that 5,000 goes to the government as a tax. That's how the government makes money also. And the government also makes money through agreements, all right? And so on and so forth. So let me bring to you, why is the government saying now that it's going to generate a little more money this time around? What is responsible for that? I listed for you the ways, the different taxation methods, all right, through which the government generates money. Now, when we're talking about taxation, there is a new thing that was introduced way back, and Liberia has been beyond for over maybe for decades to pull it. Liberia has been trying to make effort to introduce a different form of taxation, all right, usually that make other countries that using that form of taxation to generate a little more money. That is called VAT. And I'm going to, this is very important because that is one of the things, the government is betting on, that there is going to generate a significant amount of money. So I'm going to talk about it here very quickly. And once I do that, and then I will be able to, because what I'm doing now is presenting to you the budget, the allocation, the projection, how the government is going to collect the money. All right. And then after that, I will come with my own analysis of the entire budget. And you do not really want to miss that particular analysis that I have for you. So let's talk about the VAT. What is the VAT? The VAT is value added tax. That's why they call VAT. Value added tax, what is that? It's simple to understand. Now, we already have taxation. I explained taxation to you in clear and simple terms. Now, we have a different type of taxation, which is called value added taxation or value added tax. It is a little different from the traditional taxation, but it's still the same concept. The difference is this time around, you've been taxed for adding value to a particular product. So in other words, it means the government gets another opportunity, another means, additional method, additional window to collect taxes. That is, if you add value on a particular product, government tax the value that is being added to that particular product. So take for example, I have this bottle. I bought the bottle already, and the bottle is right here in my hand. And let's say I imported the bottle. For the bottle to come in the country, the government tax it. Import tax. The government finished making money. Now I'm a businessman. I brought a bottle right here. And I'm saying the reason I brought a bottle in this country is to use this bottle to produce slippers. So I imported 1 million of this bottle. And the government made money by allowing me to bring the bottle in the country because it has to go through the borders of the country. Now, I take it to my factory. I take it to my factory. And as I start to produce by using the bottle, say, as my material to produce slippers. When I produce the slipper, remember the government finished making some money for the importation of this bottle. Now that I have added value to this bottle by turning it to slipper, it has become a new product. So the government is saying, okay, the government finished making money by bringing the bottle in. Now I want to sell this slipper that I have produced from this bottle. Once I put it on the market, the government also make money. You see that? So that is value added tax. So the government gets another opportunity to make additional money, to generate additional revenue. So now, instead of the government making money one time from this bottle, technically the government now is making money twice from the bottle because this slipper that I produced came from the bottle. Value added tax. So let me give you the history of it. If you are just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia. We are doing a comprehensive commentary on the 1.2 billion 2026 draft national budget. I'm Anthony Sie, and I am presenting today. This is Focus on Liberia. We educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Our programs are morally educationally driven. We do our presentation to educate. Whether it's through debate, whether it's through analysis, the goal is to what? To educate. So value added tax, let's go to the history. And you will love the history. Stay with me. Don't go anywhere and invite somebody. So value added tax, let's go to the history of value added tax. Why do we need to bring the value added tax? What are the advantages and disadvantages of this value added tax? Is Liberia actually prepared for the value added tax? Are we prepared as a country for that? Do we even have the infrastructure for that? And the value added tax, will it not bring trouble to us? Will it not even increase hardship? Because instead of us paying tax one time, now we are paying tax 2 times, technically on the very same product. So how is this a very good idea? let's go to the history, and all your questions will be answered. So the concept of a value-added tax, VAT, was first proposed in the early 20th century by a German industrialist. This man is called von Siemens. So Siemens introduced the value-added tax in 1918 as a more efficient alternative to turnover taxes, which cause cascading effects, meaning tax on tax. And, so fast forward, the idea was when value is added on a product, that product entirely becomes an entirely different commodity. Or a service, it becomes an entirely different service. Value has been added. So when a businessman is making money, the industrialist von Siemens is arguing government must also make money because government needs more money. Hello? So he introduced it in 1918, and it became popular in no time. So let's talk about the early experiment about it. The first country to implement a form of the VAT, the value-added tax, was France. And France did this in 1954. So in 1954, France looked at it and said, well, this Simon guy, he's talking sense here. Governments are greedy. Human by nature is greedy. And so what? So we're going to make more money? Remember the example I gave? Instead of government collecting money once, now this slipper comes from this bottle. The government said we're going to tax it too so we can make another money. So this is a European idea. And if you look at the history of value-added tax, you get to know that it is being used by over 160 countries in the world. The entire Europe is doing it. And so African countries have started using that also. And the countries that are using that, they are generating more revenue, domestic revenue, than countries that have not been using it. So where does Liberia go to borrow money? Liberia is going to Europe, any other place except Africa to borrow money. And these countries that are generating significant revenue, they are using this value-added tax. And so France introduced it or experimented it in 1954 through the French Tax Authority. So let's talk about it globally after. From 1960 to 1970, many European countries adopted the VAT as part of their modernization of public finance. So the European Union, through the EEC, which is the European Economic Community, and it's a perfect link to this, you will see it, they make a conditional. They set a condition that all the European countries got to move to VAT. They try to make it compulsory. Because if others are doing it and others not doing it, it may not work that much. They make it compulsory. So the European Economic Community tried to enforce it on all the European Union member countries. They started pushing it. They said, so there will be uniformity in taxation across Europe. As a result, what happened? Europe revenue generation capacity increase. Europe started generating more revenue because they were not only taxing a product now, but when value is being added on that product, is also being taxed. Another thing they did is, those economies, when we move into modernization, those countries, when they were digitized their economy. When those economies get digitized now, it became very, very easier. And so those who are in Europe listening to me, And also in the United States, you know that when you go to the store, when you buy something, what happens? They scan it. Anytime they scan the item, the government tax is taken from there. Anytime they scan the item, government tax is taken from that. I don't know the percentage, but I will say overall, most of the products that are sold in Europe, in America, in most developed countries, they are scanned at a store. And once it's scanned, government gets money. Some of the products you are buying, they became finished product as a result of value being added. Take, for example, someone is taking fabric from China and bringing it to America. And that person, maybe it's a factory that is producing suits, sewing suits, but they're buying the fabric in China. When they buy the fabric in China to import it to the US, they have to pay import taxation. I mean, they pay import tax. For it to come in the country, you got to pay. We are in an era now of trying to talking about taxation, right? I mean, tariff, right? Tariff is the same as taxation. There's nothing different about it. All right. So after the factory import the fabric, start producing. Let's say your men warehouse. Maybe there's a factory that producing all the suits in men warehouse. Let's say they're getting the material from China. So when the suits are sold and put in the store for it to be sold, bam, they scan it. Government make money again. Value added tax. So the US now, using it as an example, is generating significant revenue. So Liberia look at it and say, you know what? We got to join. We can't be left behind. And by the way, I was talking about from 1960 to 1970, all the whole of Europe started using the value added tax. Fast forward from 1980 or from the 80s to the 90s, value added tax spread rapidly to developing countries or developing economies as part of fiscal reforms encouraged by institutions like the IMF. IMF start pushing it. Hey, developed countries, if you want to generate more money, instead of us borrowing you money, instead of trying to contribute to your budget all along, anytime value is added on a price, on a product, tax it. That way you will generate more money. Fast forward from 2000 to present, over 170 countries across the world are now using the VAT, which is the value added tax. Now, one big country in the world that is not doing it is the United States. The United States is not doing the value added tax the way it is structured in Europe and the way it is also being structured in Africa. The reason is because the US is heavily taxed, or taxation is being done twice in America already. How, you may ask? One, the federal government is taxing you and the state government is also taxing you. So if they were to bring the value added tax or to use the value added tax format, it will even complicate taxes and people will spend, prices will be way too high. But for you to understand it, the way the taxation is done in the US is the same exact method that the value added tax is doing. In America, the federal government will tax you, the state will tax you. So the way we're talking about value added tax in Liberia now, meaning that when you bring it, if you bring the product in, they will tax you. If you add value, they will tax you. Same way in America. When the product enters the United States through any border, they tax it. If it goes to Minnesota, when you're selling it, they tax it. That's why the US is not using that exact format. But if you look at their tax structure, it is no different from the value added tax or idea. That is why the US is not doing it. I hope you understand that. So why am I explaining this? I'm explaining this because the government of Liberia has been behind in the introduction and the implementation of the value added tax. And the government now is saying, beginning 2026, the value added tax will be used. And all across countries that have introduced and used the value added tax, anytime the value added tax method has been implemented or has been introduced, usually the government revenue generation goes up. Why? Because you are charging more times now than usual. Remember the example I gave with the bottle and the thing I was showing a slipper? So that's why the government is very, very confident now that we're going to generate more money. Because anytime value is being added on the product, the government said it's going to tax it to generate money. Is there a problem there? There is a big problem. The big problem is Liberia does not have the infrastructure for that. Liberia does not have the infrastructure for that. Go in our stores. We are behind with the economy being digitized. Not everything in every store that is done. You go to the store, down Wallasab, the Fuller Men Shop, the men show the price to you. How is government collecting taxes on that? People that are in the manufacturing, maybe they bring their product in and then they turn it to a finished good by adding value. Is the government there? Does the government know how many institutions or businesses that are into value addition? And will the government be there to tax them? That is the capacity that we don't have. But according to the finance minister and the LRA boss, they are going to introduce some of these things. Another reason the government said is going to increase a revenue generation is that it is trying to introduce some form of digitization now. Mobile money is a big thing, and I'm a fan of mobile money because the money goes straight to your account. The money goes straight to government account. The money goes straight to your business account. And no one is receiving the money physically to be tempted and take the money and put it in your pocket. So LRA has been working on that. You can go to LRA and you can pay your tax through mobile money option. You can do that. And I have been on the advocacy that government should do its best to invest significantly and digitize its revenue collection. Because if the government does that, should the government do that? The government will generate more money. The issue of billion will not be a debate anymore. It will not be difficult to hit it. Because let's say MPA, for example, that anything that you have to pay for using mobile money, that money goes straight to the government account. And so many other places where revenues, government generated revenue or revenues are generated, if we are using a mobile money payment system and with bill payment portal that are being used, government revenue generation will increase. So the government is also betting on all of the factors that are listed as the strong reason why it is confident that it is going to raise the amount of money they are promising to raise. But let me bring you something what the finance minister said. The finance minister said this year there will be no budget shuffle. Next year there will be no budget shuffle. And that was big news for me. I'm like, what? The finance minister really mean this? Does he really mean that? Because I have been following the budget and I have done my research and I have the record as far back as 2010. Every budget has experienced a significant budget shortfall. So for the finance minister to announce today that there will not be budget shortfall this year, there will not be budget shortfall next year, you are relying on Mentor CD being ratified for you to get a 200 million. You know, as a government, where you put yourself in a very disadvantageous position. Mentor CD people have heard it, that you desperately need that $200 million. They can give you a deal that is not in the interest of the country. You will be more than forced to sign on that deal because you already make a promise to your people that you will generate 1.2 billion and 200 of that going to come from Mentor Steel. I think that was not smart. But again, these are people who are the government actors. There are a lot of things to see I don't see. But from the place I sit and looking at it, I don't know. So let me let's listen to the finance minister, talking about there will be no budget shortfall. So let's listen to the finance minister, and then I will bring Focus on Liberia research record that shows that there has been budget shortfall since 2010. It goes back 2010, but we decided to start from 2010. Let's watch.
Last year was the first year that domestic revenue were able to raise nearly almost 700 million in domestic revenue as a country. Last year. So let me thank profusely the LRA Commissioner General and all others who worked to make that happen. So, and let me dispel the notion that last year ended with a shortfall. No, there was no shortfall last year. And this year there will be no shortfall. We know we began the year with some turbulence when we had the USAID cut, which hit us hard because USAID.
So you heard that the finance minister was very clear. He said there will be no budget shortfall this year, 2025, and also 2026 there will be no budget shortfall. You heard our finance minister say that. All right, let's go to our research record here and see whether, what the finance minister said is doable or is possible, that there will be no budget shortfall this year. What does the record say? The finance minister is betting on the fact that the trajectory, the trend of revenue generation has been increasing to the point that they generated 700, 800 in domestic revenue collection. So now it's possible that they can generate about 900 or 800 and more. And so when fundings from Mentor Steel and other sources like the World Bank coming, they will hit the 1.2 billion they're talking about. He is saying so because of the trend. The big people say the trajectory. So let us look at the trend. Let us look at the record in terms of budget shortfall. When was the last time we have not had budget shortfall? The finance minister also said that last year there was no budget shortfall. I disagree with the finance minister. I disagree with the finance minister that there was no budget shortfall last year. I disagree with the finance minister. But again, he's the finance minister. Maybe they have the records, but the records in our possession show there was a budget shortfall in 2024. There was a budget shortfall. So let's look at the records we have. So this is budget shortfall record from 2010 to 2025. We have the record. So in 2010, the deficit was negative 4.5%. The estimated budget shortfall reported in 2010 was 180 million. Fast forward 2011, the deficit was negative 3.8%. So we experienced an estimated budget shortfall of 160 million. 2012, deficit negative 4.2%. Budget shortfall that we experienced in 2012, 180 million. 2013, deficit. 2013 deficit, we have negative 5.0%. Budget shortfall that we experienced in 2013, 220 million. 2014, deficit of negative 6.3%. The estimated budget shortfall that we experience as a country, 280 million. 2015, the biggest of all. Deficit was negative 8.4%. Budget deficit reported 370 million. 2016, deficit reported negative 5.5%. Budget shortfall reported 240 million. All right. Fast forward 2017. Deficit reported negative 4.8%. Deficit reported, budget shortfall 210 million. 2018, 190 million. Let's go faster. 2019, 180 million. 2020, 320 million. 2021, 230 million. 2022, 210 million. 2023, 160 million. 2024, the finance minister said we did not experience a budget shortfall in 2024. I beg to differ, Mr. Minister. Let us rectify the record. Send us a record, let us see, and then we will correct our records here. 2024, $140 million budget deficit. 2025, this one is a projection. And why are we projecting that? We are projecting that because the first quarter, the government fell short of about 63 million. 63 million in the first quarter. There are 4 quarters in a year. Every 3 months is a quarter. Every 3 months is every 3 months a quarter. All right. So if you are on a trend or experiencing $60 million every budget period, every quarter, our estimate is around $180 million budget shortfall that will be experienced in this year. We are now celebrating budget shortfall. We are just giving you the history. There has never, since 2010, been a year when we have not had a budget shortfall. So for the finance minister to say, last year, 2024, we did not experience budget shortfall, there will not be budget shortfall this year, there will not be budget shortfall last year, they will be defying economic gravity when it comes to revenue generation in Liberia. Now that we have said that, is it possible for this government or our government to generate the 1.2 billion? Well, we wait and see. But since 2010 to 2024, every budget passed, the government was not able to collect the projection. What the government said it will generate, the government will not be able to raise that money. From 2010 to 2024, you do the math, how many years? We have not been able to collect all of the money projected that we will raise as a people. Now, let me bring in my analysis and close this thing. If you look at our budget, for those who are happy, for those who are celebrating $1.2 billion pronouncement and projection, first of all, that money is a very small money for a country. In as much as it's better to have your budget in billion than in the 500 million, I am not dancing over the place because of that. Because I want a country that commit at least $1 billion to every major sector every year. That is what I want. So before you celebrate, let me give you some news here. Ivory Coast budget is 24 billion United States dollars. Hello, are you listening to me? Ivory Coast had our own turmoil, and civil war just as we did. Ivory Coast budget is 24 billion. Ghana budget is 25 billion with a B. And now we are talking 1 billion. We are talking 1 billion 22 years after the Civil War. We have stable government running for about 22 years. And we are just talking about $1 billion. And the reason we even talking about billion is because African Development Bank going to give us some money. IMF going to give us some money. The money we're talking about might even be money that we are borrowing. The money they're talking about from IMF, European Union, all these places, it might be borrowed money. Even if that money that we have to borrow is because we are getting gift, practically begging that they should help us because we cannot generate money enough. So had it not been the IMF, the World Bank, African Development Bank, the European Union giving us some money, we would not be talking about $1 billion technically. If Mentor Steve have not promised, if we were not to get, quote unquote, the $200 million in the concession agreement that is still being discussed, still in the process, we will not be talking about $1 billion. Anything is possible. Why if the deal breaks down? And as we show you the record, there has not been a year where we have not had a budget shortfall in a tool of 200, 300, 150, 180, 160, 230 million. There has never been a year since 2010 for us to not have a budget shortfall. So I believe, though I don't want it, but the rational thing to think is we may have a budget shortfall, for that has been our history for over 15 years or for over 14 years, to put it right. That has been our history. And so when the finance minister said we will not have a budget shortfall, fine. So now let's talk about the increase in the money. The way the budget has been allocated. Is that going to lead to the improvements of conditions, the human and material condition of our people? Will it lead to, the provision of quality social services? And I was reading to you the projection. They were talking about, well, this one for energy so that electricity can be stable. Will that happen? Has that even happened in the first place? So we have an issue here, and the whole budget thing, I feel that we need a new strategy for budgetary allocation. We need a paradigm shift. We need a radical approach on our budget, because the accountability measures that we've been using, they're not helping. And fiscally, our government has been very irresponsible and not disciplined in terms of how they spend the money. If you look at our budget over the years, recurring expenses just to run the government, the running of a government has been taking sometimes 80%, 85%, 89%, 88%, 87% of the budget will go to the running of the government. Paying salaries, buying their cars, making their travels, giving them a scratch card, giving them money for generators to fix their cars and all that. That's why, for the most part, over 80% of the budgets have been spent on in our country. That is why we are on a slow pace when it comes to infrastructural development and public sector investment in our country. So the increase now in this budget, one who have thought that the entire amount the budget is to be increased by will only go to public sector investment. But that is not the case. As you saw, the legislature money jumped from around $55 million to $83 million, almost 20 million plus added. The executive branch of government, their budget jumped from around $60 million all the way to 100 plus million. It jumped by almost 40%. Why can't I give that 40% to public sector investment to go to business social services that will improve the human and material condition of our country? So if last year the legislature was able to operate on, say, 55 million, why it cannot operate on $55 million next year? We still have bar roads. We still have bar schools. We still have bar hospitals. We still have a university that is a national shame. And you may be asking me, how much is in the budget? The budget people dancing a ball. How much is in the budget for the University of Liberia? 40 million. Hello? 40 million is in the budget for the University of Liberia. $40 million cannot do anything for the University of Liberia. It cannot. I mean, there's a reason why the building continued to look like that all these years, one government after the other. It is because we have been allocating a meaningless amount to run a university and thinking that we can provide quality education. It's never ever going to work. It's not magic. It is reality that we must face. So the budget has increased, and the amount it has increased by, instead of using it in areas you've been having challenges, over 50% of the increased amount goes to the very government that been getting all the fabulous salary and fire checks and been getting cars and so on and so forth. So how much difference now will we experience in terms of national development and in terms of the provision of basic social services and also in terms of improving the human and material conditions of our people? How? So let me give you my own logic. Maybe I shouldn't call it logic. Let me give you my paradigm shift in terms of budgetary allocation in Liberia. And this is something that I have been advocating for, as a citizen of our country and also as a practicing media person in Liberia. When it comes to the budget, first of all, I want a government and a president that decides that, we have a budget. The budget must be distributed between the people and the government. You listen to me? The budget should be divided between the people and the government. And I want a government and a president who says, I want a president or a government that says, or who says, our people are going to get more and we're going to get less. 4, we are representative of the people, we are serving them. The people are our bosses. So they should get more. That's one reason. Another reason is the people are more than us who are in government. So the people who are more should get more, and we who are less in government, we should get less. Hello, you follow me? So if a government makes that determination, then the government will be allocating the budget based on the needs of the people. It will be a people-driven budget. I read the budget, and the government said that the budget is what? Is program and project-driven. What a good language. But if you look at the numbers, if you look at the allocation, it tells an entirely different story. So that's how I want a government. That is how I want any leader of our country to think about the budget first. Me or the government and the people we serve. Who should get more? Who should get more? Don't be like the father who says, well, I'm making the money. The father will get more and my family will get less. You are one person, father. Your family, when you divide the budget, should get more than you who just a single person. So on the basis of that, I want a government that decides, look, 60% of the budget will go to public sector investment for the benefit of our people. And 40% of the budget will come to the running of the government. In that way, you have more money for education, you have more money for road construction, you have more money for healthcare, and so on and so forth. That's another way for you to divide the budget. when you want to prioritize the needs of your people, I think that's the way to look at it. That's one way. But we are yet to see a government that does that. Another thing now you do is you cut down the waste. Look at our government. As I read the budget, I think we have over 500 entities or government institutions that we are funding. Way too much duplication of functions. Now we created the Labrador National Tourism Authority that was under the Ministry of Information, Cultural Affairs, and Tourism. So we created another one. I think as I read the budget, I think they should have $30 million set aside. And the Ministry of Information should be getting, I think, around 3 to 4 million for that. If those two agencies were together, more than likely they were going to get the same amount. You're going to get maybe $400 million. Then we could save some money. But now you establish a new agency of government. Now you need money to rent building. You need money for cars for all the director, deputy director, and this person and that person. And now you need to furnish that building that you're going to rent anyway. And now you need operational costs. And now you need employee salary. You increase the government. If you have not increased the government, that extra money could go to something else to improve the human and material conditions of our people. That is just one example. Now we have another agency that are being created, I know, Food and Safety Board. That's another one. If you read the budget, you see so many different entities. Now the other one I want to see is, which is my big thing, is why can't we not allocate this budget? Because we have the Local Government Act now. We want the counties to operate autonomous as local government. Why can we not allocate this budget also on the basis of our counties? Say you look at Grand Crew County, my Grand Crew, you say, look, Grand Crew, you are a county, you have a superintendent, you must have a county government that is responsible for your police, that is responsible for your education, that is responsible for your safety and everything in your county. Run your own affairs in your county. And as a result of that, Grand Crew, now that we have 1.2 billion, Grand Crew, we're going to give you, let's say, $20 million in the budget. The citizens of Grand Crew, now they have a county government that must be accountable to them. Grand Crew can now decide, what do we do with our $20 million? I think for us in Grand Crew, we are struggling with roads. So we'll put 50% of our budget into roads. We want to connect to Sino easily. We want to connect to Grand Jita easily. We want to connect to Sino County easily. Grand Crew now can start networking with Sino, with Grand Jita, and Maryland. Say, look, Maryland, the road between us, can you take it from here and we meet in the middle? You pave this side, we pave this side, so that we can have a better trade route between us. Grand Crew can negotiate the same thing with Grand Jita and Sino County. Now, that burden has been relieved of the central government. So Grand Crew now is looking at the schools in Grand Crew County. Grand Crew now wants its schools to be better than the schools in Grand Jita, better than the schools in Maryland, better than the school in Sino County. Sino County is thinking the same way. Now there is a competitive spirit in terms of national development. People are taking, counties are taking responsibility. They are taking the development of their own into their hands. The huge and ineffective bureaucratic government now is being relieved of the burden that has stagnated it and stagnated development over the years. That is what I want to see. That is a government. That is how, as a people, we will be making significant progress in terms of the allocation of our national budget to bring some efficiency, to make it a shared responsibility. That is what people in the Western world they are doing. You have your city government. This city is responsible for the development of this entire locality. That other city is responsible for that. The funds as transferred. You as the federal government, they are making some funds available to some states for certain things. And the state take the affairs of the implementation of any such project. So you see some efficiency, you see the accountability is much more. What is stopping us from moving to that? Hello? So now we have counties. Superintendent is appointed. They put 200,000 in the budget for the county. And the superintendent is traveling from the county to Monrovia, working to Finance Ministry looking for some 200,000 that cannot even do anything for the county. And then we have the budget shortfall. That superintendent now end up getting 50,000. A lawmaker will chase that 50,000, and then you have the city, the county commissioner, and all that stepping in. At the end of the day, nothing is accomplished in the county. How long are we going to be on this path of distributing our national budget in this very ineffective way, thinking that it's going to change anything for us? I hope our policy makers are listening. Now, another thing we need to change is the issue of these embassies that we have. What's the meaning of that? I really don't get it. And look at some allocation before I talk about this. So look here, we are a poor African country struggling. So this portion of the budget I'm showing to you, we have embassy in Paris, that's Europe. We have embassy in Brussels, that's Europe. We have embassy in London, that's Europe. We have embassy in Rome, that's Europe. We have embassy in Berlin, that's Europe. And we really don't have money. And we put money in the budget for embassy in these places. For what? How many embassies we're going to have in the one Europe that we're going to be funding? When we really need development is in the counties, in our country. And we're sending somebody to Paris, Brussels, London, Rome, Berlin to do what? Just to represent, Labrador have embassy. That is the name. That's all. What does that bring to us? Can anybody tell us what does that bring to us? President Bouaka was in Paris the other time. What happened? What happened? Hello? Now, in addition to that, even African countries, look at the thing that is on your screen there. We have embassy in Rabat, Morocco, in Egypt, in Addis Ababa, in Pretoria, or South Africa, in Abuja, in Accra, in Abidjan, in Conakry. All right? We have embassy even in Sierra Leone. We have embassy in Ivory Coast. We have embassy in Guinea. We are an ECOWAS region now. My passport can take me to Guinea, can take me to Sierra Leone, can take me to Ivory Coast, can take me to Nigeria, can take me to Ghana. Why do I need embassy in these places? Eliminate all those useless embassies. And let me repeat, eliminate all those useless embassies and save yourself some money that you can use to face your schools and face your clinics. Look at all the money they're sending to this embassy that don't really add any value to our country. 400,000, 500,000, 600,000. You look in the West African, the ECOWAS region alone, Guinea, Sierra Leone, Ivory Coast, Ghana, Abuja. You put all that money, 500, 600, 400, this, that, you put them together. By the time you count to yourself, you have maybe $3, $4, $5 million. Imagine taking $5 million and spending it on Tottenham High. You will get a functional library with computers that young Liberian citizens will have access to. It will add value to your country. It will empower the young people in your country. But what is the embassy? How is the embassy of Ghana impacting us as a country in terms of national development? The one in Africa, how is it impacting us in terms of national development? The one in Cairo, how is it impacting us in terms of national development? Those money they're sending in those places, complete waste. What is your priority? Oh, we have embassy in Ghana. That's all. That's it? Come on, man. We have to think outside of the box. Look, technology has made everything simple now. We have visas upon arrival. Most countries have visas upon arrival. So why do you need all the embassies for? The Liberian government should have a website where you go, you apply for your passport. When your passport is ready, it can be shipped to you. Wherever you are, you get your Liberian passport. The Liberian government now should be able to issue e-visa, electronic visa should be able to be issued. And somebody wants to come to Liberia, let them go on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs website and apply for the visa. They apply for the visa, they can print that visa and stick it in their passport. And then they're on their way to Liberia. What do we need embassy in those places for? What are we getting from those embassies? Job made and useless representation that does not add value to our country? Or it says that's the way to give some, people that supported you in a campaign to give them jobs? Is that what it is? We need to find much better ways of allocating our budget. Now, let's bring it home, and then I will leave you. In our country, we have cities. Look there. We have transferred to the city of Banga. In the budget, Banga get 20,000 US dollars. That is city budget of my people. Hello? Banga get 20,000. The city of Kakata get 20,000. The city of Gompa in the Makande get 20,000. The city of Tapeta get 15,000. The city of Harper in Maryland County gets 15,000. The city of Buchanan gets 20,000. The other cities get 27,000, they say. Let me bring another one. Here is another one. We have, let me see this one. Yeah, this one continuing with these are the counties. You see the counties? These are what the counties get. So you see, folks, I don't know. All I'm saying, we as a people and as a government, we need to do better. Our policy makers need to do better. We have been sending money to these embassies, and I'm saying these embassies are practically useless. The world has advanced. As a result of internet and technology, a lot of things can be done online, and you can save millions of dollars over years. Those millions of dollars can be diverted to healthcare and education. I truly believe we do not need embassy in all of the African countries, especially Guinea, Sierra Leone, Ivory Coast. Read that. Why do we need embassy in these places? For what? When we all carry the same ECOWAS passport, you don't need a visa. Close all those embassies. Take the phone if you have to communicate with Ivory Coast for something. You can do the same thing in Europe. In Europe, you can have few embassies around the world. Your Ministry of Foreign Affairs can be open, online, on the phone, through virtual meetings. You can have virtual embassies. The world has advanced. We don't have money. Let's find ways to save and invest the saving in our people. Our people are struggling. Go to red light. The place is terrible. It has been like that. We will say that one of the major reasons is money. $20,000 for a city, $15,000 for a city, $200,000 for a county as county development funds, $1 million for a county for county development funds, $2 million for a county, for example, as its appropriation in the budget. What can $2 million do for a county? Even he gave Grand Crew $1 million. What can $1 million do for Grand Crew? Compare $1 million for Grand Crew and compare $83 million for the House, for the legislature. The legislature, the total number of persons in that building, the lawmakers about 103, plus their staff. And then if you look at the central administration, almost like 400 civil service. So their salary coming from different places. They are getting more money. Look at NSA. Look at all the money they're pumping in NSA. What kind of intelligence gathering are they doing? They're giving them all that money. Then the other thing is you can't audit them. So we have sent over 200 million to NSA since the war ended, and no audit whatsoever. What that money has been done with, no one knows. No one will ever know. Why are we treating ourselves like that? President Bouaka decided that he was going to audit NSA. He changed his mind. He somersaulted on that. Why? Mr. President, why? This place is like the cash cow. This is where corruption happened because no audit. Covert operation. Covert operation. That's a code name. Covert operation. We will never know. Never ever know. I hope and pray that one day we'll have a revolutionary minded leader who will be able to look at the entire budget and say 60% for the people, 20% for the government. And tell the leader that tell the finance minister, who tells the finance minister we have 40% in the budget. Make the appropriation. If it means that a minister will get $500 every year, every month as a salary, so it be. We have to invest in our people. Because when we invest in roads, when we invest in education, when we invest in electricity, when we invest in our port, when we invest in our seaport, their capacity will be increased. Current will be stable. Conditions in the country will get better. And then people start to come to Liberia and invest more. And then we will start generating billions in revenue. When these conditions have improved, if you want to increase the salary of the government officials, so be it. I mean, think about it. How can a teacher, let me end with this. How can a teacher be making $200 by the time they take taxes from their account to 180? It is that 180, sometimes 150 United States, one whole month. This teacher who has a family of 5 is depending on. He needs to go to school though to teach. This teacher is in my Ninkru town, and this teacher is teaching at G.W. Gibson. So he needs about $150 Liberian dollars to get to work every day. And now when he goes to teach, he must eat though. So he needs about maybe $500 to get a correct lapa bido bowl to survive that day. And he has left home a family of 4 that must eat that day. He is only operating on that $150. No transportation is given to him, no allowance whatsoever, no health care whatsoever, and he's able to survive that and is living. But a minister who is earning $500,000, we got to get a generator, we got to buy a car, we got to be responsible for the car. He gets a cell phone, we got to gain Strikeout. And now he has to travel. We have to pay him for a plane ticket. We all got to buy him, we got to pay for a food that he's going to eat. Even though he makes all this money. This is unfair. This is not a better approach. It is my hope that our leaders will change course. Let us have a unique paradigm shift in how we allocate our budget so that the human material conditions in our country will be improved. That is the only way. Stop traveling. Stop traveling. Stop begging. The money you generate, invest it in your country, into the provision of electricity in your roads. When your roads are better, it will increase economic activities. When current is stable and water, all these things, when you do them, when the conditions in the country get better, more people have reason to come to our country. Improve your airport. Put light on the road from your airport to the city so that when somebody comes to our country, let them feel some level of comfort. Let the airport not be the reason the person does not return. Let the road from the airport going to Monrovia that is in darkness be a reason why someone does not return to invest in your country. Let someone not decide not to invest in your country because you cannot keep the currency stable. Only us can do it. And it is my hope that our leaders will listen and do the honorable thing that needs to be done so that we can get on the right footing and develop our country. Begging will not solve it. Begging will not solve it. We have been begging for the entire time of our life as a country. And we have poor roads or no roads. We have poor electricity or none. We have poor water provision or none in many places. We are talking Monrovia here for electricity not even stable. We are talking only Monrovia here. Water is not even stable. Even our schools in Monrovia. In Monrovia, I'm not talking Monserrado County. The Monrovia Consolidated School System, the government school system, they are struggling badly. University of Liberia, right in the heart of the city, is struggling terribly. What is a priority? We can do better. On that note, this has been a comprehensive commentary on the 1.2 billion 2026 draft national budget. I am Anthony Sie. I presented the commentary. I hope I was able to bring more clarity, vision to the whole idea of budget or budgeting in our country. Focus on Liberia. We have a panel discussion on the budget. We will have a panel discussion on the budget. We will have people who have the authority and the expertise in business and finance and budgeting. They will come and the expert will be able to provide more education on this. My presentation has been the layman understanding and an orthodox insight and a paradigm shift thinking of how we should look at the budget. And I think if our leaders can decide to go with the way I talk about it, we will make progress, because the way we have done it over the years has not, the ways have not gotten us anywhere. And so the song that says we are all Liberians is taking us home right now. Until I see you again when I do, this is Anthony Sie saying bye-bye to you for us here at Focus on Liberia. Thank you for watching and bye-bye.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our